He didn't break you. He exposed you. He didn't ruin your life. He revealed who you were really giving it to. He didn't shatter your soul. He pulled back the curtain on what you accepted in the name of love. You weren't weak. You were loyal. You weren't stupid. You were hopeful. You weren't blind. You were trusting. And he used that trust like a weapon. He showed you the parts of yourself that needed protecting, the parts that didn't have boundaries, the parts that thought love meant sacrifice, no matter the cost. He exposed the wounds you hadn't healed, the ones you hid behind patience, behind forgiveness, behind silence. He didn't break you. He mirrored what you needed to see. He reflected the lies you still believed about yourself, that you had to earn love, that being chosen meant staying no matter what, that if you just loved harder, he would finally stay. But he didn't want love. He wanted power. He didn't want partnership. He wanted permission to stay broken without consequence. He didn't want your heart. He wanted control of your spirit. And you gave it to him because you didn't know better. Because no one taught you the difference between pain and passion. Because they told you love was hard, but they never told you love should never hurt like this. They told you to fight for what you love, but they never told you you'd lose yourself in the process. So he took. And you gave. He lied. And you forgave. He disappeared. And you waited. He failed to show up. And you made excuses for him. But every time he broke a piece of you, a deeper truth was rising. You didn't see it yet, but something inside you was paying attention. The ache in your chest was not weakness. It was the alarm, the warning, the final call. He didn't break you. He broke the illusion, the dream you were sold, the fantasy you clung to. He didn't destroy your life. He cracked the lie wide open, the lie that said this was love, the lie that said you were hard to love, the lie that said he was the best you could get. But pain has a way of waking you up. One scar at a time, one unanswered call at a time, one broken promise at a time. And eventually, you stopped crying. Not because it stopped hurting, but because the pain finally turned into power. You started to see clearly, not all at once, but moment by moment. You stopped explaining your needs. You stopped begging to be heard. You stopped apologizing for being affected by the chaos he created. He didn't break you. He broke your tolerance for nonsense. He broke your addiction to one-sided love. He broke the part of you that settled for crumbs while calling it a meal. And in doing that, he did you a favor. Because you would have stayed. You would have kept loving him through his silence, through the lies, through the gaslighting, through the half-love that always left you empty. You would have kept fighting for the person he pretended to be, but you're not that woman anymore. You don't live on hope and apologies now. You live on truth. You live on peace. You live on boundaries that don't bend to emotion. You live on the awareness that your love is valuable. And it's not for those who misuse it. He exposed your greatest lesson, that love is not about endurance. It's about alignment. It's about choosing someone who chooses you consistently. It's about being seen, not just watched, held, not just tolerated, honored, not just handled. You thought he was your story, but he was only your trigger, the beginning of the version of you that refuses to shrink, that refuses to break to be kept, that refuses to be quiet just to be close. You gave him access to your heart, and he misused it. Now no one walks in without meeting the standards you built from that pain. You loved him with everything, and when he left, you thought that love went with him. But love didn't leave. It just redirected. It came home to you. He didn't break you. He just showed you where you needed to heal, where you needed to rise, where you needed to finally look yourself in the mirror and say, never again. Not like that. Not for someone who can't see me. Not for someone who only takes. Not for someone who turns my light into guilt. You were never hard to love. He just wasn't capable. You were never too much. He was too little. And now you know. Now you know. Love isn't supposed to feel like confusion. It's not supposed to feel like begging. It's not supposed to keep you up at night questioning if you're enough, because the right love doesn't put you on trial. It doesn't punish you for being soft. It doesn't leave you starving for affection while asking you to stay loyal. He didn't break you. He exposed the gap between what you gave and what you received. He exposed your patterns, the places where you confused pain with passion, where you confused effort with proof, where you thought sacrificing yourself was the price of staying loved. But you learned. You learned that your voice matters. You learned that love without respect is a cage. You learned that just because someone wants you doesn't mean they know how to love you. You learned to listen to the silence between his words. Because silence says more than fake apologies ever could. He taught you what inconsistency looks like, what manipulation feels like, what emotional starvation does to a woman who gives her whole soul. And now? Now you no longer pour from a place that isn't safe. Now you no longer stay where you're only tolerated. Now you don't confuse intensity with intimacy. He thought he was breaking you, but really, he was making room for you to meet yourself. The version of you who doesn't chase. The one who doesn't lower herself to stay connected. The one who knows the difference between someone who wants her and someone who values her. He exposed the truth. That the kind of love you deserve isn't chaotic. It's not cruel. It doesn't gaslight you into believing your standards are the problem. It doesn't hide behind silence when things get hard. It shows up, fully, willingly, softly and consistently. You stopped calling it love when it started to feel like survival. You stopped calling it effort when you were the only one trying. You stopped calling it connection when all you felt was anxiety. Because now you know love is peace, and anything less than peace is not where you belong. He didn't break you. He broke the spell, and you woke up, stronger, sharper, and unshakably you. You woke up, not bitter, not hardened, but aware, awake to the truth that your worth was never up for debate. Awake to the realization that what you gave him, he never had the capacity to return. You used to ask what was wrong with you. Now you ask why you tolerated so little for so long. You used to think you weren't enough. Now you see you were just in the wrong room, with the wrong man, who wasn't built to meet you where you stood. He couldn't break you because your spirit is built from something deeper. He couldn't destroy you because you were never his to own. He couldn't love you properly because he never learned how to love himself. And that's not your burden to carry. Not anymore. You put it down the moment you stopped calling dysfunction passion, the moment you stopped rewriting your standards to fit someone else's inconsistency, the moment you finally chose you. Now you protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Now you set boundaries without apology. Now you walk away when energy feels wrong, even if it once felt like home. He didn't break you. He introduced you to the parts of yourself you had ignored. The fire, the voice, the intuition you silenced to keep the peace. But now you are the peace, and anything that threatens it doesn't get to stay. He lost access the moment you woke up. He lost the version of you that made excuses. He lost the version of you that begged for clarity. He lost the version of you that stayed for potential. And what he exposed, that was your rebirth. That was your reminder. That was the breaking point, not of you, but of the illusion that love must come through pain. You loved him, but now you love you more. And that love, it's not negotiable. It's not confused. It doesn't chase. It doesn't break for anyone. He didn't break you. He exposed you. And now you rise, unapologetically, unshakably, unstoppable.